I'm violinist Alexander Winkler, and what you just heard me play was the finished product after many hours of practicing and studying Ernst Lasser's Summer, a violin piece notorious for being difficult. I'd like to take you with me on a journey of finding the meaning of this piece. To begin with, I had some reading to do, so I went to the library. So right here I have a couple things in front of me. I have both the score of The Last Rose of Summer here, and then also a book. So The Last Rose of Summer, which is the main theme of the piece, was originally never called The Last Rose of Summer. It was actually called Alison O. Egler, or Young Man's Dreams in English, which at least adds a whole new sort of layer to the main theme at least. On top of that, the main theme was actually an Irish folk tune written down by Edward Bunting in 1792. And the reason it's called The Last Rose of Summer is because that's named after a poem by the Irish poet Thomas Moore, and he was inspired to write the poem when he was visiting an Irish country house, and he was apparently inspired by a rose bush. After reading the poem and learning the history of the piece, I was excited and nearly overwhelmed by the material I could use to interpret the piece. But now I wanted to get to the important things, the musical roots of the piece, so I spoke to an expert in Irish folk music.
Irish music has two main aspects: the dance music, which is fast and very rhythmic, and the harp music, which is much calmer and slower. When Bunting wrote down the main melody to The Last Rose of Summer, he wrote it down because he had heard it performed by the harp player Dennis Hemp's son.
Okay, so the main theme was actually originally improvised.
Yes, this was typical of Irish folk melodies like this, but what actually makes H.W. Ernest Last Rose of Summer interesting is that he takes this very free improvised style and puts it into a more rigged, romantic style.
So how did Ernst fit into the picture, the man who in the end composed the famous variations on The Last Rose of Summer? First, I had to understand one thing: the Romantic period, an art scene that had never flourished so much. I went to the Roskilde Museum to look at some Romantic paintings.